Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live's Leaf Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, on Leaf Talk. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, you can subscribe to Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube. The one, the only Aaron William Freeland joins us. Da, 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 da.
I hardly think it's going to be
Da,
on.
da, 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 da.
Well, in all fairness to the Leafs, it is their seventh game of the playoffs.
In all
So,
fairness to the Leafs, they start slow. They started the season slow. They started the last series slow, and 2 out of the 8 teams that won the first game did not win the series in the previous 8 series that were played. So there's no need to give up. There's only a need for Toronto to win this game. It'll be very important for them to win this game, and still it won't be over if they don't win this game. What it comes down to is that the Leafs need to win before Florida wins 4 times. So
yep.
Florida's won 1 time. 1 time.
I got to
So
be honest with you, though. Looking at this game, Frank, it wasn't that the Maple Leafs played badly, because they didn't.
they were better than Florida.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The typical thing that happened is Bobrovsky realized that he's a former Vezina winner and started to play like one. So,
No, it's
you
the
know,
Leafs. Look, you want to wrap that game in one little tiny little moment, in a split second, in one tiny little moment. Austin Matthews let go a ripper of a shot, top left corner, hits the shaft of Bobrovsky's stick. Hits the shaft of Bobrovsky's stick. Can you say Matthews and the Leafs got the shaft on that play?
yeah, you could definitely
Fortunately,
say
they
that.
got it all. They got all the shaft on that one. It went away, and all it had to do was go a half inch one way or a half inch the other, and then as a goaltender, it would have deflected into the goal. There was
Yep.
plenty of room for it to go in, and that's the story of the Maple Leafs. We've talked about this ad nauseum, over and over again. They're a team that plays well, gets the margin of play. We talked about it in the playoffs previously. And we talked about how the Leafs capitalized at a better rate in this playoff series. But in game 1 against Tampa, they did the same thing. And we'll see what happens. I don't know that they'll come out, with a 5-0 win on Thursday. But I think they'll play well. This is a team that really does know how to bounce back. If they don't bounce back this time, they're going to have to bounce back a little harder next time.
Yeah, I mean, as it currently stands, they did outshoot the Panthers 36-28. They won more faceoffs. They won 51% of the draws. Unfortunately, their power play was completely lackluster at 0-4.
It was 0-4, but
Mm.
again, execution at the final moment. They had the puck was moving. It was like it was on a string. The only problem was the string wasn't attached to the center of the net.
No, exactly. It was attached to the stanchion on the glass behind the back of the net.
The
Um,
crossbar, the post.
everywhere
They
but the net.
Yeah, they had a couple of posts. They had a crossbar. Oh, look. I'm just trying to calm Leaf fans down because, there's a few of them who are on overpasses all over the country. And I'm saying, guys, step back from the abyss. It's not necessary. Don't worry about it. It's a 7-game series. And yes, it could be as short as 4, but we're talking one game. One game. One game. They played one game. One game.
What the one thing I like to caution about, though, is this. Everybody says, "Oh, it's a long series. It's a long series. It's a long series." But when there's more than one loss in a row, that long series starts to get short pretty darn quick.
Wow, absolutely. It
So,
becomes out of 2 out of 3, and
yeah.
they're only 2 games out. No, this is something. How do you criticize that game.
You can't. I mean, the Leafs laid the body. There were some fantastic hits. One thing I did notice on a consistent basis is they failed to adapt to the offensive pressure of the Florida Panthers. Specifically, anytime the
7-Eleven.
puck even looked like it was coming along the boards towards the points, Florida's defense would activate and pinch.
7-Eleven.
Yeah, that's
We're
certainly
seeing the
one way to do it.
7-Eleven again because this means, like, the one thing about the 7-Eleven, it makes the defenders on the team, they activate a lot more and they play a little more physical because they have more time between shifts, and I think that's what the Leafs need. And I can understand why. In watching the game last night, Aston Reese looked lost.
Yeah.
He didn't seem to be the same guy that we've become accustomed to watching. When there was nice stuff going on, good stuff going on, he wasn't near the puck. He wasn't in the play. The same is true. I don't know if it's because their physicality requires playing a team that isn't that physical. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. But
I don't know.
they don't look effective against Florida. They have to move a lot quicker. And really what happened there was that one line of Florida, as you posted here, you said, Tkachuk stole the show in game 1 in Toronto, showing off a different part of his game.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to muscle through, he was trying to handle his way through. And as much as he tried to do that, and as much as Schenn managed to get the body on him once or twice, most of the time, and I'm puzzled as to how this happened, most of the time they were on the ice against Giordano and Liljegren. And when you're the visiting coach with the last change, how do you consistently get your number one guy line against the number three defense pairing, and the coach doesn't react to it? The number one pairing for Toronto in that last game was McCabe and Brody.
Yeah, it
Riley
was.
and Schenn were the second pairing, and Giordano and Liljegren were very definitely the 5 and 6. There's no earthly way Giordano and Liljegren should be getting any reps whatsoever up against Florida's number one line. That should never happen.
For me, it wasn't so much Liljegren. It was, yeah.
Yeah. And at
He
40
looks
years of
slow. He
age,
looks slow.
at 40 years of age, he's good at being tenderized by pucks. He's not so good at moving. It's
Yeah,
an unfortunate reality.
he needs a rest. They've got to sit him down for one game, unless
The
they have
question is then who
7.
draws
Which,
in?
well, I don't
You
want to
can't
be a
bring in
hole.
Hall. He's the whipping boy.
I don't want to be a hole, but
You can't bring him in. He's Toronto's whipping boy. You took him out
well,
You took him out
he
like in
does
game
play
6.
well
Toronto
after
won the
he
series.
comes back in. He
Eh,
plays pretty good.
eh, I mean, you gotta look at that and say, well, if he comes back in, then what about Connor Timmins?
Well, he's a guy that actually last time should have come in. I really think that guy could help offensively. They need that. They
And
need to back up the Florida. Their forecheck. If you noticed last night, a couple of times their forecheck put them in deep trouble.
mhm.
A lot of 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s when they pinched. Right. If they've got guys that can move up, really push the puck forward, carry it forward, do something with it moving quickly. That's what the Leafs have to do. They have to really enhance their game, and the tempo of their game needs to be a little quicker with this team. It seems I find it hard to believe that I'm saying this, but I'm agreeing with the people on the broadcast that this might be a faster game that the Leafs need to play against this specific team.
Yeah, against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think the heavier style works. Against the Florida Panthers, I think they're going to spend a lot of time going over game tape. Keefe is going to have to adjust to a faster game. So that means, Simmons won't be seeing any more ice time. Unfortunately, that'll be unlikely. Gustafson might get in on defense. Connor Timmins might get in on defense. Mark Giordano, good God, that man needs a rest. He's got to come out. But
He looks tired.
and nothing against Gio, man. I love the dude, but there are limits to what the human body can do, and he's been pushing those limits for at least the past 3 seasons, if not longer. So,
Well, I don't know. This is, he late in the season he started something happened. He got hurt and he just didn't recover fully. It seems, and it seems right now he just seems a little slow. Um, he, when the first thing they say about players when they start getting older is they eventually lose a step. Well, a step in this intense play is a lot. One step makes a big difference. Turn around, move up ice, turn around, make a pass. Now the guy's on top of you before you can turn around, decide whether you're going to pass or run. It's tough. It's tough. But you know what? I think this Leaf team is better than Florida. I think they can be better than Florida. I think Bobrovsky is a guy that I know he looks really invincible right now, but he is a guy who can tend to um, crater, and all the Leafs have to do that puck doesn't hit the stick. Um, you don't hit the post. Your power play not only dominates on offense, actually dominates on the scoreboard. They really as long as they don't score on the power play, the physical nature of the Florida Panthers accelerates. It's just one of the ways that they can take a bit of the game that Florida likes away from them. They've got to score on the power play, and that's how you stop teams that are heavy hitting teams like the Florida Panthers.
And I think one of the other unfortunate things about last night was that they seemed to suffer from warm-up itis. Again, Samsonov got stung by a high shot during the warm-up.
In the
God
collarbone.
knows, guys, you got to keep them down. You got to keep it down. They hit 4 posts. You take those 4 posts out. You take the shaft of the stick out. You make them a little more accurate.
Add them up and
Uh,
divide by two, they're fine.
yeah, exactly. It's not really anything to panic over. It's one of
Oh,
those.
heck no.
It
One
didn't quite
game.
go your way.
One game.
There
They
are some
come out
people that are.
there
Yeah.
tomorrow. They come out tomorrow and they play some hockey and Marner Marner doesn't did you hear the I didn't know. I didn't hear that hot mic where what's his name? Goober. What's his name? Tampa. Goober? The big tall guy?
Oh, Gudis.
No, not Gudis. That's Florida. The guy in Tampa. The
Oh, yeah,
cross
yeah, yeah,
checker.
yeah, yeah. That guy.
Goober. What's
Yeah,
his name?
Hagel,
No,
Brandon
not
Hagel.
Hagel. No, no, no. The big guy. The guy who cross checked
It's not
oh,
coming to me. You'll
remember
have to.
the moron. I mean the maroon.
Right, that guy.
God, I just couldn't get his name. He said they caught him on a hot mic saying, "We're gonna kill you, Marner. We're gonna kill you, Marner." No suspension for that,
Nah, no, because the comments were directed at Martin. They were directed at Luke Shen.
but he said, "We're gonna kill you, Marner."
No, he said we're going to kill you, Shenner. Yeah,
Oh,
and that's when Luke Shen was positioning himself between the benches after the Riley hit
yeah, yeah.
on
I
point.
remember the I
Yeah,
remember the
yeah,
moment. I
yeah.
just didn't remember hearing. I didn't hear what was said. Um, I'm afraid that's something that's I think that's unacceptable conversation, and he should be suspended for 12, 13 games next year, maybe
It's not
20,
like he drew his thumb across his
maybe
throat like
20.
Kadri did, right? You
But
know.
that's what you're doing. That's what you're saying, isn't it? Isn't that what you like? That's what that means. So
Yeah.
saying it doesn't mean it.
No, apparently not, because sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So
No, I mean
that seems to be the mentality that player safety is
the
operating under.
NHL officiating makes it so easy, so
Right?
easy.
Did you see Paul Maurice's gesture at the referees?
No.
Yeah. So he went like this on
Oh,
his
the
chest.
five, the
Yeah.
six, the
The
5-1.
5-1. Unfortunately, he was wrong. There were actually, technically speaking, only 4 penalties called against Tampa Bay, uh, because one was a double minor
Right.
for cutting Ryan O'Reilly's left eyebrow open, which was fairly obvious. I don't know how the referee missed it. It was right in front of him, and the fact that it took 4.5, 5 minutes to review that to call a 4-minute penalty when he's bleeding right in front of you,
Well, they
just
got to make sure that it
easily
wasn't
explained.
his own stick. They got to make sure it didn't happen someplace else, and the cut was directly attributable to the action of the Florida Panther, who was being penalized for the high stick. So I can understand that, Aaron. That's not that, but they do make it easy, and I think that was probably the best officiated game against the Leafs that we've seen so far.
There was a minimum of BS. And I know Paul Maurice was complaining about the fact that all the penalties seemed to go against them, but I have a suggestion for the Florida Panthers. And Paul, I don't know if you're watching, but stop breaking the rules. It's very simple. You don't stick a stick into somebody's skates to trip them. You don't play their spine like a xylophone with the shaft of your stick. You keep your stick below the shoulders. None of that happens. The Leafs are the ones that end up with the only penalty in the game if your boys behave. Simple.
That's too much to ask.
I know.
It's way too much to ask.
I know.
Look at that. Pavelski comes into the game, scores 4 goals, Aaron. Come on.
Oh, it was fantastic to see. I mean, he'd been knocked out by Matt Dumba earlier on in the series, and yeah, no, came roaring back to score 4 goals, and just like Austin Matthews, managed to lose 5-4 in overtime to the Kraken, who are officially rolling, and I'm loving it. It's been great to see them on this run.
Snoop Dogg is thinking about buying the Senators.
Yep, he is part of a group that is interested in picking up the Senators, along with a Los Angeles-based entrepreneur, Nico Sparks. Um, Snoop has actually done some guest announcing and color commentary for the Los Angeles Kings. He's done stuff with the NHL with their Hockey 101 series on the web, and he's actually very interested in uh, putting together a youth hockey league, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And with his broad crossover appeal, having won a match at WrestleMania against the Miz, this is definitely looking like an expansion for him, which would be fantastic. He's trying to find a way to bring hockey to inner city kids. The Snoop Youth Hockey League, as they want to call it, because it's an expensive sport. It's about 2,500 to $3,000 a year to put a kid in gear. So
Absolutely. It's not really easy. Let's go over to Major League Baseball, where the Blue Jays were playing real well until they went into Boston.
well, they've lost 2 games by 1 run, one 7-6 and the other 6-5. There was a Alex Verdugo had words about
Ugh.
Alek Manoah's behavior earlier in the year, but having
Ugh.
spent a little more time getting to know Alek Manoah, he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I said that. I'd like to sit down and have a conversation with him and clear the air." He's obviously one of those guys who's a great pitcher who always pitches with a chip on his shoulder. I felt some of his actions were unnecessary, but at the same time, having talked with his teammates and gotten to know him a little bit better, I now understand where it's coming from.
Soccer Canada, there's a little shaking at its root.
Yeah, they're actually hoping there's a leadership vote that's going to be coming up soon. So Canadian men's and women's soccer teams are urging for changes in the leadership as the governing body's annual meeting starts this week in St. John, New Brunswick. Almost called it St. John's. That would get my East card revoked. But there's an ongoing labor dispute that prompted Nick Bontis to resign as president. Earl Cochran announced last month he was stepping down as general secretary. Former Olympian Charmaine Crooks has been named the interim president. And she's been on the Canada Soccer Board since 2012, 2013, and has been a VP since January 2021. So as it currently stands, there is an opportunity here for them to clean house, fix some of the issues that are currently facing Soccer Canada, and get them back on the right course.
Well, apparently, Calgary Pastor, he's getting pasteurized.
That's right, Arthur Pawlowski. We actually spoke about him earlier on in the pandemic. He was one of those people that strongly backed the Coots blockade, as well as had multiple church gatherings against COVID regulations, which actually turned his church into a super spreader. But he was actually found guilty of mischief and breaching a release order. There was enough evidence to find Pawlowski guilty of a charge under the Alberta Critical Infrastructure Defence Act, but they couldn't record a verdict on that charge because the defense had given notice of a constitutional challenge. But basically, as it currently stands, Pawlowski, because of his law-breaking activities, will be facing justice.
NDP leader Rachel Notley promises health care improvements on a second day of campaign. That would be in Alberta.
Yeah, the writ was issued on Monday for the vote, and the voting for the new premier will be held on May 29th. Uh, for those of you who are complaining that everything bad in Alberta has happened in the 3 years, 11 months, and 7 days that the NDP were in power, I need to remind you that the Conservatives were in power for 47 years, 4 months, and 17 days before that. You can't blame everything on the NDP, as challenging and as fun as that might be. But Notley is trying to garner votes. There is more evidence coming out that Danielle Smith did stuff that wasn't necessarily above board, if not necessarily illegal, then certainly unethical, which basically should preclude her from returning again as premier.
The only behavior in the United States worse than, I'll tell you the story, than the jurisprudence is not heavy into prudence. It's juris something else. We're seeing that the Supreme Court justices are, the wives are making a lot of money on behalf of the family, and let's just say that if they weren't justices, their wives wouldn't be making that kind of money. Ridiculous. I'm only saying that because if you think that's effed up, Donald Trump, I understand the Constitution allows for the fact that he could have given himself a pardon, not announced it. As long as he made it up while he was in power, he can use it. So he
Keep
could
it in
have
his
done
back
that.
pocket.
Yeah, that's scary to know that people with power can put themselves in a position where they're not accountable. I mean, with the judges, I'm talking about both those things where the total lack of shame, because that's essentially what we're talking about, a lack of shame, honor. Amazing.
It is scary to think that he could actually think of doing something like that, but such is the state of politics that even if he did, he'd probably get away with
Absolutely. Aaron, thanks for doing this. We better go before Angie spanks us.
it. Thanks a
Bad
lot,
boy.
Frank.
Bad boy. Don't want any punishment. I'm a good boy. I'm Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank live. Leaf Talk, seen live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Listen, if you have time, check out Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube, and why don't you subscribe? So, Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy the playoff hockey.